The Holy Gospel, according to Mark, the 16th chapter. When the Sabbath was over, Mary Magdalene and Mary, the mother of James, and Salome bought spices so that they might go and anoint him. And very early on the first day of the week, when the sun had risen, they went to the tomb. They had been saying to one another, "Who will roll away the stone for us from the entrance to the tomb?" When they looked up, they saw that the stone, which was very large, had already been rolled back. As they entered the tomb, they saw a young man dressed in a white robe, sitting on the right side, and they were alarmed. But he said to them, "Do not be alarmed. You are looking for Jesus of Nazareth, who was crucified. He has been raised. He is not here. Look, there is the place they laid him. But go, tell his disciples and Peter that he is going ahead of you to Galilee. There you will see him, just as he told you." So they went out and fled from the tomb, for terror and amazement had seized them. And they said nothing to anyone, for they were afraid. The Gospel of the Lord.
Praise to you, O Christ.
At this time, too, our children are invited to go over to Fellowship Center, I think, for a story. Right, Lauren? Okay. And as they're making their way, we're going to have a little quiz here, a little test. Christ is risen.
Christ is risen indeed. Hallelujah.
Man, don't you just love to say that? We've been waiting and waiting and waiting for so many days to be able to say that Christ is risen.
Christ is risen indeed. Hallelujah.
Hallelujah. Yes, those words bring about all these images of hope and of fulfilled expectations and of life. I read something the other day. It was by a guy named Chris Hedges. He's a journalist and an author who has spent much of his entire career reporting on his experiences as he covered various wars. Now, the sad part of that is that part I said about he spent almost his entire career covering war. And he's not doing this as a pacifist, but he's doing so as a person of faith. And he wrote these words. They're at the same time joyful and haunting. Love is the only force that can finally counter death. Hear that again. Love is the only force that can finally counter death. This morning, the gospel writer of Mark invites us, all of us gathered here today in this space, to do more than just simply hear this story that we've probably heard before of this experience of Mary Magdalene and Mary, the mother of James, and Salome. As they walk to the tomb, they enter it and then ultimately leave in terror. Mark invites us to be more than just a simple ear witness to those words, but invites us to fully immerse ourselves into that story, to live this story of love. And that we live this story today and all the mornings that are to come. Because today we're invited to live a story of love that drives these three very devout Jewish women who have witnessed the torturous death of the one that they believe is their Messiah. to first go out and remember all of God's past activity in their lives by observing the Sabbath. And then they go out and they buy these spices and oils to anoint the dead body. And they head out early in the morning without considering all the consequences. They don't have a plan. Who will roll the stone away? They say. Today we're invited to live this story of love that takes all of the initiative to enable us to do what we might not even dream of doing, at least through our own capabilities. The stone had already been rolled back. We're invited to live a story of love that confidently says to us, do not be afraid when we encounter what has got to be the unimaginable. A love that understands that although we have been told, do not be afraid, we are. It's a story of a love that accompanies us in our fears, in our amazement. And little by little, gives us direction in stressful times. A love that begins to explain itself in these words. Look, there is the place where they laid him. It's a love that challenges us to share the very love that we have received with those that we know and with those people that we've yet to meet. It's a love that forgives our shortcomings, even our most grievous shortcomings of denial and doubt and abandonment. A love that outlasts our ability to remain confident in our faith. What does the man say? But go, tell his disciples, even Peter. Today we're invited to live a story of love that precedes us, that paves the way for us to go, that forges a path where one doesn't even exist, that opens our hearts so that when we meet those people, we'll be able to greet them. We've been provided this sure footing to face all that we encounter in every aspect of our lives. He, meaning Jesus, is going ahead of you to Galilee. It's a love that never abandons us, but walks ahead of us and is waiting for us to simply follow. There you will see him, just as he told you. It's a love that abides, even when we are too afraid to do what we have been told to do. What we know we should do, what we may set out to do, and then fail to do. It's a love that waits on us to one day have the strength to go out and tell. And they said nothing to no one, for they were afraid. Today we're invited to live life surrounded by a love that is, in fact, the only force that can finally counter death. And that love is revealed to us in these 8 very simple and poignant words. He is not here. He has been raised. And because he has been raised, and because he invites us all to meet him where he is going before us, we can confidently say, Christ is risen.
Christ is risen indeed.
Amen. Thanks be to God.